Title: Police recovered her bag. Near the old graves, but not her. Subscribe if you think you'd still walk home alone after dark. It was the kind of rain that made the world sound hollow. Every drop seemed to echo off the stone walls of Ravenscroft Cemetery, the oldest burial ground in Haverhill County. The storm had started just after sunset, and by the time the police arrived, the roads were glistening rivers of silver light. The call came from a Joggara man who swore he'd seen a purse lying near the rusted cemetery gates. He'd picked it up, thinking someone might have dropped it, but when he noticed the open gate and the footprints leading inside, he ran to call for help instead. Detective Eleanor Price stood under her umbrella, watching the rain pool around the item now sealed in evidence. A brown leather handbag, soaked but intact. Inside, a driver's license, a set of car keys, and a folded letter, warped from the rain. The signature at the bottom didn't match the name on the ID. The license belonged to Amelia Cross, age 27. The signature on the letter read, Amelia Cross, in the same handwriting, only the date was wrong. 50 years old. The grave nearest to where the bag was found bore the same name, Amelia Cross, 1939-1904. The detective crouched, tracing the outline of the headstone with her flashlight. "Is this some kind of sick joke?" she muttered. "Maybe," said her partner, Officer Dyer, adjusting his raincoat. "Or maybe someone's trying to get our attention." Lightning flickered across the sky, casting long shadows between the tombstones. The air smelled of iron and wet earth. Somewhere deeper in the cemetery, something metallic clanged, like an old gate swaying in the wind. "Let's check the perimeter," Eleanor said. The sound grew louder as they approached the east wall. Dyer's flashlight beam trembled slightly as he swept it across the stones. That's when I saw it. A second set of footprints, smaller, bare, trailing alongside the first before disappearing into the mud. "Looks like she wasn't alone," he whispered. They followed the tracks until they stopped abruptly at an open grave. The hole was deep, freshly dug, though no burial had been scheduled that night. The edges were sharp, the dirt piled neatly to one side as if someone had been waiting. Eleanor peered in, shining her light downward. "No body," she said quietly. "Just—" She froze. Something moved at the bottom. Not a hand, not an animal. Something softer, a piece of cloth half buried. Dyer climbed down, muttering as he reached for it. It was a torn sleeve, soaked in rain. Pale blue cotton. When he held it up, Eleanor's breath caught. The fabric was old, too old, threadbare, the kind of cloth that hadn't been made in decades. And stitched into the hem were faded initials. "AC, same as the grave," Dyer whispered. Thunder rolled again, this time followed by something else, a faint, echoing cry. A woman's voice, distant and soft, calling from somewhere within the cemetery. "Help, please." They both turned, scanning the fog between the tombstones. The voice came again, clearer now, closer. "Help me!" Dyer raised his flashlight. That came from the west side. Eleanor nodded, drawing her radio. Static hissed, no signal. They started moving toward the sound, careful over the slick grass. The voice repeated, higher, desperate now. "Please, help me." But then another voice echoed back from the opposite direction. Identical. The same tone, the same trembling breath. Both voices spoke at once. "Help me!" Eleanor stopped cold. "That's not possible." The two sounds overlapped, one from beyond the graves, the other from the forest beyond the wall. The same plea, repeating in perfect unison. Dyer whispered, "Which one do we follow?" Before she could answer, lightning flashed again, briefly elusive, illuminating two figures standing on either side of the cemetery wall. Both women, both barefoot, both wearing the same pale blue dress, and both had Amelia Cross's face. Then the light was gone, and so were they. The only thing left was the sound of rain and the echo of that same trembling voice, whispering from everywhere at once, "Help me, please." Eleanor backed away slowly, her heart pounding. The letter from the bag still lay open in the evidence pouch by her car. The ink had bled, but the words were still visible. "To whoever finds this, she's coming back for me. Don't answer her." The last line shimmered under the rain. "We can't both exist." Lightning struck again, lighting up the cemetery in a cold, ghostly white. And this time, at the open grave, a woman's silhouette stood watching them, smiling faintly. The rain didn't stop. It fell like clockwork, as though the sky itself was stuck in a loop. By dawn, the cemetery was cordoned off, but the air around Ravenscroft still carried that strange electricity, a quiet that didn't belong to morning. Detective Eleanor Price sat in her car, staring at the letter through the plastic evidence bag. The ink had bled even more overnight, but that last line still burned through the smears. "We can't both exist." Her phone buzzed a call from Officer Dyer. "They found something," he said. "You need to see this." At the station, a forensic tech spread the contents of Amelia Cross's bag across the metal table. The ID, the keys, and the letter were already catalogued. But the tech pointed to something new, a Polaroid photo wedged inside the bag's inner lining. It showed two women standing side by side in front of a gravestone, both smiling, both identical. Eleanor frowned. Could be a trick of the light. Maybe she had a sister? The tech shook her head. No records of any relatives. But get this, the film stock used in that photo? It hasn't been manufactured since the 1970s. A chill crawled up Eleanor's spine. That's impossible. Dyer crossed his arms. What if this isn't the first time it's happened? Of a hand small, delicate, and burned into the texture. It was still warm. Suddenly, Dyer's radio crackled. Unit 5, respond. We've got a call from 12 Pine Street. Neighbor reports screaming. The house belongs to Static burst through. Amelia Cross. Eleanor and Dyer exchanged a look. They ran. The rain picked up again as they reached the small cottage on Pine Street, lights flickering inside. The front door stood ajar, creaking in the wind. "Police!" Dyer shouted, stepping in. The house smelled like damp earth and something faintly metallic, the same scent from the tunnels under the cemetery. Eleanor followed him into the living room, her flashlight beam cutting through the dark. On the floor lay muddy footprints, 2 sets. One wet and recent, one dry and faint but identical in size and direction. The walls trembled as thunder cracked overhead. Somewhere deeper in the house, a voice whispered softly, "Help me." They turned toward the hallway. The light flickered once, twice, then dimmed completely. When it came back on, Dyer was gone. Eleanor's flashlight swung wildly through the room. The back door was open. Rain poured in through the threshold, and at the center of the floor, sitting upright, was Dyer's flashlight still on, casting its beam across the mirror above the fireplace. In the reflection, behind her, stood 2 women, both in blue dresses, both smiling. Only one of them had a shadow. Rain hammered against the windows, a constant heartbeat pounding through the silence. Detective Eleanor Price stood frozen, staring at the mirror above the fireplace. 2 women, one reflection, the same face twice, one behind her, one beside her. She turned sharply, flashlight trembling. The living room was empty. Only the echo of dripping rain remained. She raised her voice, trying to sound steady. "Amelia, if you're here, I need you to come out now. Nothing. The house mow." As she got closer, she saw the truth. It wasn't Dyer. It was Amelia again. But this time her dress was clean, her face calm, and her eyes dry. Alive. "You don't belong here," Amelia said softly. Eleanor stopped in her tracks. "Neither do you." Amelia tilted her head. "I'm not the one who stayed too long." Lightning flashed. For a fraction of a second, the scene inverted. The graves glowed white, the air shimmered, and Eleanor saw herself standing inside one of the open plots. Mud on her hands, dirt in her hair, eyes wide with fear. When the light faded, she was back at the gate, breathing hard, disoriented. The real Amelia was gone, and her own hands were muddy. The rain had stopped entirely now. The world was silent except for the steady creak of the cemetery gate behind her. She turned slowly, dread sinking deep. There, leaning against the wall, was the same brown handbag. Her flashlight beam caught the wet leather, the brass clasp glinting faintly. She approached, heart pounding. Inside were a driver's license, car keys, and a folded letter. The name on the license, Eleanor Price. The letter's signature, written in shaky handwriting, Eleanor Price. 2024. Her breath caught. The paper trembled in her hands as she read the final line. "They found my bag near the old graves. But not me." The sound of rain returned, but not from the sky. It was coming from beneath her feet, dripping softly through the cracks in the earth. When she looked down, she realized she was standing over a freshly covered grave. The headstone read, "Detective Eleanor Price, born 1989. Died October 14, 2024. The mist rose higher, wrapping around her like fogged glass. Somewhere beyond the wall, two identical voices began to whisper again, one soft, one hollow. "Help me, help me." And as the cemetery faded back into darkness, the gate creaked shut for the last time. If you thought this story was terrifying, the next one will haunt you even more. Hit subscribe if you dare.